Jayden Daniels was better than Bo Nix in their rookie season, but it's Bo Nix who will lead his team to a division title. That and more on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome into the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, the legacy, Louie DiBiase. On today's episode, we're talking about all of the second-year quarterbacks. J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, who will actually be good. Drake Maye, Caleb Williams, who will make the playoffs this year, but we'll start about who will win their division between Bo Nix and Jayden Daniels, and I got my money on Bo Nix. Before we dive in, though, do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen and for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And, Louie, the big reason I think that Bo Nix has a better chance to win his division this year than Jayden Daniels comes down to, I think the Chiefs are more vulnerable than the Philadelphia Eagles. And our guys over at Locked On Broncos talked about exactly that.
Denver's got a really good chance, I think, to compete for the AFC West for the foreseeable future here while they have this window with Bo Nix. I don't know how you feel about that, but this is the evolution of the NFL. One team, that has been on top for so long, Kansas City's reign inside the division. It's insulting in a sense. Like, you want more teams in AFC West to have pride. Like, go out there and take it. That's why Sean Payton said, hey, our goal is to win the AFC West this year. Greg Penner has reinforced that. Denver's making moves I think will give them the best chance to reclaim the division than they've had in quite some time.
Yeah, and it's not that we're just getting bored of the Kansas City Chiefs being good either. It's the fact that, the last 2 years they've been 15th in the NFL in scoring. They were actually pretty bad last year in terms of red zone offense. And so the Chiefs have a lot to work on right now, and they have a lot of stuff that they need to get fixed and personnel that needs to be replaced. And that does give a team like Denver an opportunity, especially with all the talent the Broncos have now, and they're getting out of salary cap purgatory, right? They've added really talented players. They've been drafting well. The Broncos are perfectly equipped now with Bo Nix, like you said, Cody, to be able to actually maybe make some noise here in the AFC West.
That's what it comes down to, right? It's just Kansas City at some point in time, I think, will take a slight step back, and the rest of the division. Like, the Chargers are a very good football team. I think the Raiders will be a very good football team. Look at the coaches in that division. Think about it. Andy Reid and Jim Harbaugh, Pete Carroll. Just, and then, of course, you have Sean Payton, who, look, I have been a hater on the Broncos throughout the Sean Payton process, and I'm wrong about it. He's really got them to a great spot, and I think Bo Nix is the guy who wins his division, not Jayden Daniels. Even if Jayden Daniels remains to be a slightly better player, the Broncos are just in a great spot.
Yeah, as the host of the Locked On Eagles podcast, I don't think people are going to be surprised that I'm going with the Denver Broncos. But it really is because the Chiefs have just been such an inconsistent regular season team over the last 2 years. And I'm not predicting the Broncos are going to win the division. I think it will be Kansas City. I love the additions they made in the draft. Josh Simmons was a steal. I think Omar Norman-Lott was as well in round 2. They helped out the trenches on both sides. But, yeah, they're just such an up-and-down team. And if they're yet again in all these one-score games next year, they'll win more than they lose. But are they going to just run the table almost like they did last season? I don't think so. And I think the NFC East got a lot better, right? I think the Giants got better. I think the Cowboys got better. I don't think the Eagles really regressed. So I think the Commanders did improve their roster as well, but I almost think there's a regression coming from the Commanders. I think they really overachieved last year, getting to the NFC title, where I think Denver is kind of on the right trajectory. So I'm going to agree here, and I think Denver would have the better chance of the two.
No, I agree with you there too, because the Commanders didn't really do exactly what I wanted them to do. It's like they had the philosophy right, and I do like the Laramie Tunsil trade and kind of reshuffling the offensive line. They bring in Josh Connerly in the draft at right tackle, so you can move Brandon Coleman inside. Like, I do like that general move, but the Deebo Samuel thing really really rings hollow for me. I don't think that he is the type of guy that you wanted to put with Jayden Daniels. I thought they really needed it. I was hoping that they would make a move for like T. Higgins or something like that. And I know that T. Higgins never became available, so that wasn't a move that they could make. But I guess I just wanted a little bit more, and I think they did the best they could, but it wasn't at a good value with what they were able to do. So I do agree with you. There's a bit of a regression coming, and we've just learned to accept that with Cliff Kingsbury. You know, even at the back half of the year, they made their run, but the offense slowed down just a little bit in certain spots. And I think Cliff Kingsbury is a guy who, when the NFL gets to sit down and really learn him, he doesn't necessarily have great counters. So I'll be interesting to see how he counters this season before he moves on to his inevitable next head coaching opportunity.
I mean, that's what happened with the Cardinals, right? Kyler Murray's an MVP favorite in 2019 for a certain point. Then they regressed into the playoffs. They lose in the first round. And then, that kind of happened. And I'm not predicting the same with Jayden Daniels, but I'm with you. I get the premise of you have a rookie quarterback on this cheap deal. So let's try to surround him with like known productive players. We can pay them more. But I feel like they paid a lot or brought in a lot of big names that are on the descend, right? Like I think some of these moves worked last year. Zach Ertz was very productive for them. So was Bobby Wagner. But you never know. Like the drop-off can happen really fast with players like that. And Deebo Samuel's just another one of those kind of players. Laramie Tunsil. I think those guys are going to help in 2025, but I don't feel like they're doing a great job right now building a sustainable core around Daniels, kind of like the Eagles have in that division with Jalen Hurts, where all these guys are growing up together, where I feel like Daniels right now is like one of the youngest players, and they're just surrounding him with aging veterans. So I don't really love that approach.
Yeah, and then you look at the Marshawn Lattimore trade, and you definitely understand it. You want to be able to have an answer for A.J. Brown in the division and see if you can make your push. But, like, that's another aging guy who has dealt with some injuries. Is he going to be what you want him to be for the next 2 years? You know, it
like
does make
you
you wonder.
Tyler. I mean, that's like an ascending player still. That's good right now. He'll help you right now. But Deebo, I think, is on the downhill, like the downhill turn. So,
yes, majorly.
Yeah.
It definitely doesn't seem like they're going all out to win right now, but they're not, like you said, they're not finding guys who can grow with Jayden Daniels, where I think the Broncos are doing that right now. And I just like the opportunity that they have a little bit better. Let's do it this way, though. Louie, if the Commanders are the team that wins their division and not the Broncos, what happened to the Eagles to allow the Commanders to have that opportunity?
Injuries? I mean, I don't know. I think that's maybe the biggest thing. Saquon goes down. I mean, they did see some injuries happen early in the year last year with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. I don't think the Eagles are going to be as deep of a roster as they were in 2024. They lost a lot of key, not just starters on defense, but a lot of key like role players as well on both sides of the football that would come in, weren't full-time starters, but played significant minutes and really helped. So I think it would be the diminishing depth of the Eagles roster if this draft class does not hit, and they just don't get as lucky with their health. They've been very lucky the last few, I'd say 3 years of playoff runs where they haven't had a lot of significant injuries.
Well, I would say if you're lucky 3 seasons in a row, it ain't luck anymore. They're doing something right in Philadelphia, which is not breaking news. I think you're right about injuries. That's always the potential. But I do think after a championship, there could be a little bit of a malaise. The Eagles have had a lot of success for a lot of years, and it could be just that natural, hey, man, I don't get up for this regular season game against the Panthers. And now Bryce Young has 320 yards, 3 touchdowns, and we lost by 3 because we just, it's hard to get excited until the end, and then we're down. So I think there's maybe a natural championship regression that could lead to it. But I generally do agree. Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos are the better pick. But who has a better chance at making the playoffs this year? Drake Maye's Patriots or Caleb Williams' Bears? Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts who are ready to help take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development. See, I'm not good at web development. I'd have to hire somebody just to help me pronounce it. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. I define some freelance talent for some logos, some graphic design stuff. Upwork is the best place to get incredible results. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with the top talent and grow your business today. All right, Louie, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. Talked about the division race between the Broncos and the Commanders, obviously both of their previous division winners being the Super Bowl appearances. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm betting on the Broncos. Looking at two other second-year quarterbacks, though, Caleb Williams and Drake Maye. Which guy has a better chance to lead their team to the playoffs? Louie, I got to tell you out of the gate, I'm going with the Chicago Bears. I think the Chicago Bears are, now this is Bears fans cringe when they hear this, but the Bears are my offseason champs. They add Ben Johnson. They fortify the O-line in free agency with the trades and the moves. They go into the draft. They get weapons to add to their group. Like, I like everything that the Bears have done. I think they've built around Caleb Williams in a really smart way. I think that people are really ready to hate on Caleb Williams. There's a something you said in a recent podcast. There's like a want to hate certain players.
Yeah.
And I just feel like he's on that list. It's probably the nail paint and the emotion after games and all of that stuff. Surely it is. But I'm sorry, I still think Caleb Williams is a great player. I'm not giving up on Caleb Williams as a player. I think the Bears have done a great job this offseason. I think this is the time it actually works. So I'm going to go with the Bears making the playoffs over the Patriots.
I think both teams have done a really good job of kind of doing the opposite of what the Commanders have been doing, building a sustainable core. Their whole offseason's been about supporting Caleb Williams and Drake Maye, and I love that. I'm going to go with the Patriots because I kind of like Drake Maye more. Although both teams are taking a similar approach, both have a last place schedule. You saw Bo Nix and the Broncos feed off that to make the playoffs last year. Same with the Commanders. I think one of these two teams could be that team this year that takes a big step. But I like Drake Maye a little bit more than Caleb Williams. Both had to elevate a really bad situation last year. But Drake Maye just felt more in control of the situation. I was just so impressed by his poise, the ability to extend plays like Caleb, but I feel like in a less reckless way. And I just really like the Patriots draft. I mean, every pick was about Drake Maye, getting Will Campbell and Travion Henderson. I thought Kyle Williams was a steal in round 3. Same with Jared Wilson, the center out of Georgia. So I think in the AFC 2, there's a lot of really good quarterbacks in that conference, but all those guys normally win the division. If you told me the Patriots could win out one of those wildcard spots against a Denver or the Chargers or one of those teams in the AFC South, I wouldn't really be surprised. I'm expecting big things from Drake Maye this year.
Yeah, I think Drake Maye has a ton of potential, ton of possibility that he takes that step forward. I admit it. I like Drake Maye more than Jayden Daniels coming out of the draft. I had Drake Maye as my QB too. So obviously Daniels took the step up. He's probably the QB1, but I still have a lot of faith in Drake Maye and Caleb Williams, quite frankly. I both think they're going to be good players. But you talk about, Drake Maye's mentality stepping up. That's something that my guy Nick Cattles from Locked On Patriots talked about recently on a show, that Drake Maye is, not just stepping up with his play, but he's looking to make a step up in the locker room.
Drake Maye, by all accounts, people that have coached him, people that have played alongside him, people that have hung out with him, friends, family, whatever, pretty much everybody says that Drake Maye has awesome makeup, that his character, his compete level, it is exactly what you want from a quarterback. And there's that comment today. There's that quote from today telling us yet again, Drake Maye is ready for this. He feels like he's ready for this. That awesome makeup just flows out of him when he speaks at the podium, when he answers questions. Drake Maye is looking at the Patriots. He's looking at the fan base. He's looking at his coaching staff. He's looking at his teammates, and he's telling every single one of those people, fill my plate. I'm ready. Don't worry about the cup runneth over. Not with me. Fill my plate. I'm ready for the challenge. Drake Maye sounds like a young man who is embracing the responsibility that is being a franchise quarterback.
I mean, and that's great. And I think that Drake Maye can do that. But I think, again, like with my previous argument, a lot of it is things outside of just Drake Maye, the player and the team. I think that the Bears have a better roster than the Patriots. I like what the Patriots have done this all season as somebody who I admitted I'm Mr. Petty. I want Mike Vrabel to fail because I don't want the Titans to look like idiots. You know, like I'm never going to
say
away
there's
from
no
that
way
reality.
Tyler's taking the Pats on this one.
There's no way, man. I don't want Mike Vrabel to go there and be awesome and the Titans have egg on their face. Not a chance. You know, I'm not in for that.
He's been known to surprise, though, right? I mean, the Titans, I think some of those years, we weren't expecting them to make the runs they did in 19 and 21.
I know. He could get the best out of crappy players. Getting the best out of good players, that's a different situation, but getting the best out of crappy players, Mike Vrabel is going to do that all day long. But again, like we talked about them building on the timeline of the quarterbacks, and I agree with that. But I think that Drake Maye, just the state of the roster, the Patriots, the moves that they made, like I don't like the Stephon Diggs move. It was reported as some big, huge finance. It's a 1-year deal, you know, like it's not that big of a deal. But Kyle Williams, Will Campbell, Travion Henderson, these are guys who I think are going to be really, really good players, but they're going to be better players next year. Whereas, you know, Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, guys like that, I think they're going to come in right away. And so the additions that the Bears made, in my opinion, will be more effective in 2025, where the additions that we're excited about with Drake Maye will be better probably in 2026. So I agree with what you're saying about the additions. I think the timeline for them reaching max efficiency leans towards me going with Caleb Williams as the playoff team. And the AFC is hard as crap. You know what I mean? Like the NFC, but the NFC North is really hard. So maybe that counteracts my argument. Division.
No, I mean, I didn't feel very passionately one way or the other. I think both are in a very similar situation. So I think your argument for the Bears is very sound. I just like the quarterback specifically better. Drake Maye over Caleb Williams. Vrabel's kind of the Tom Thibodeau, if you will, for if any NBA viewers out there, where, like you said, he can elevate you to get to the 8 or 7 seed when you're not supposed to be, but don't ask him to get you a championship or be a top 3 seed, right? I think that's what he can do, but I think the middle of the conference, actually, in the NFC, might be tougher than the middle of the AFC. Like, the AFC has, some really good top-heavy contenders with star quarterbacks, but in the middle of that dogfight, I feel like the Pats might have a better chance of coming out on top for one of those wild card spots than the Bears. But it's really close. I think both teams are building kind of in a similar way. But I also just kind of like Drake Maye a little bit better right now than Caleb Williams.
That's fair. I do like Drake Maye, so I'm not gonna fight you on that. But I do have a question for you. 1-word answer: better chance at making the playoffs, the Bears or the Vikings?
Bears.
I'm with you there, and a lot of it has to do with my doubt of J.J. McCarthy, which my guy Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings is sick of the doubt of J.J. McCarthy. All right, Louie, let's cap off today's edition of Locked On NFL, talking about second-year quarterbacks. We talked about Jayden Daniels, Bo Nix. We talked about Drake Maye, Caleb Williams. Now I want to get into the two guys who played the least. And, of course, J.J. McCarthy being one of those guys who played absolutely none last year after an ACL tear during the preseason. Before we dive into it, though, I do want to thank you again for making Locked On NFL your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting with the draft dudes, Kyle Krabs, Joe Marino. If you want to know how the guys you drafted fit into your team, if you want to know how your roster looks and where it needs to go before the season kicks off, you got to do it with Locked On NFL Scouting. And check out Tony Wiggins in the Barbershop, the afternoon edition of Locked On NFL. It is a double dose of NFL news. But I'm going to go with Michael Penix. And I think since the draft process started in 2024, maybe it's a Buckeye bias. That's what people like to tell me online. I'm from Ohio. I've been an Ohio State fan since I was born. I hate Michigan, blah, 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 blah. But I'm sorry. I watched a ton of Michigan football when they won that national championship. And you could say that it's because J.J. McCarthy was young and, you know, it's just the team was built that way. But they minimized J.J. McCarthy to win that championship. If they could not have him throw the ball at all in a game, they're going to try to do it. They're trying to win with this least amount of times to make J.J. McCarthy the focal point and the decision maker. And that just sticks with me. So he's got better natural talent than I think some people want to admit. Like he's a better athlete and a stronger arm. But I just don't think that he's a good decision maker. And I don't think that he has it. So I'm out on J.J. McCarthy. And therefore, I'll go with Michael Penix to be better and actually be a starter.
I guess you could look at it in two different ways. If you're coming from a floor perspective, I think it's Michael Penix, but I'm going to go with J.J. McCarthy because I think he has a higher ceiling. Like you said, I mean, McCarthy, was kind of a game manager with Michigan because they were so talented, but I do think he's more mobile than Penix. I like his mechanics better. I think he could be more accurate at the next level. Kevin O'Connell has been shown to get the most out of quarterbacks. Look at what he did with Sam Darnold. A good situation there in Minnesota. With Penix, I think Atlanta's going to be a consistent, solid team year after year with Penix. Like, I think he could be the Tua of the NFC if he stays healthy, right? And I'm not just saying that because he's a lefty, but very similar kinds of players. I think Atlanta will always be like fighting for a wild card, but I don't know if – I think there's a scenario where McCarthy's a really good like star quarterback. I don't know if there is that scenario with Penix, who's also an older player, and I don't know. There's just some things about Penix like mechanically, and I don't think he's a star at the next level. So I think he's a safer bet than McCarthy, but I would normally like to lean towards the ceiling, so I'd go with JJ.
Yeah, that's fair. If you're going for quarterback, you might as well swing for the fences because you're going to need that to eventually win. I guess it comes down to the fact that I just don't believe in J.J. McCarthy. I just don't buy it. Yeah. I know that Kevin O'Connell is great, but one thing that we do know is J.J. McCarthy, quarterback one, but my guy, Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings, he has just been annoyed with the rush to be mad at J.J. McCarthy.
People went nuts with the idea, oh my God, the Vikings still haven't declared J.J. McCarthy as QB1. Holy crap. This would be an extraordinarily weird time to do that. That's like my first thought is like, wait, you guys wanted that in March? That is not when you do that. To give you an example, Caleb Williams, who didn't have any serious competition in Chicago last year, it was Tyson Bagent was the backup. They didn't name him QB1 officially until May 10th. The fact that J.J. McCarthy will be taking QB1 reps will kind of tell you everything you need to know there. So that was my first reaction. But also, I think, again, there seems to be this yearning sense to dismiss the Vikings wanting to go in with J.J. McCarthy.
And I'm part of that. I admit, I'm part of that. Like, I have been trying to be like, they should go get Rodgers. You can't trust J.J. McCarthy. But, hey, they put a lot on the line to get him, and they got him now. I agree with you that the environment, the quarterback coaching, it's all better than Michael Penix. But, again, every single argument I've had throughout the show has been based on circumstances, Louie. So why would I stop that now? The AFC South just seems infinitely more winnable. And quite honestly, I think that there is a good debate to have about the weapons. London, Pitts, Mooney, Bijan Robinson, pretty good offensive line in Atlanta too. I think it might be better than the Vikings offensive line, even if it's not, like high-end Christian Darrisaw. No, that's not there. But, I mean, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, that's probably better. But I just think it's closer. And if everything is kind of close, I like Michael Penix as a player better, and I think that division's more winnable. So, I know we're not talking exactly who's going to make the playoffs and this and that, but who looks like the better player this year? I'll go with Michael Penix. Somebody's going to take a step back in the NFC North, and I think it's the Vikings.
That's a fair point. And it's kind of the same argument that I had with the Patriots Bears, like very similar tier teams and similar situations. I just lean towards a quarterback I like better. That was Drake Maye. For me, that is J.J. McCarthy, but I actually give the Vikings credit for not going out there and getting an Aaron Rodgers or running it back with Sam Darnold. They have to see through this investment. Like, they drafted J.J. McCarthy in the first round. I think it was crazy when the 49ers, and it worked out, but they traded up all the way to third overall for Trey Lance, and they just never gave him, and we know now he's not a good player, but they just never gave him a shot because they kept winning with other players. The Vikings, I think they were smart saying, okay, we made the wild card, we overachieved a little bit with Darnold, but let's just maintain the course. I think sometimes teams can get caught up in that win now window, like, oh, we actually made the playoffs, let's keep this going and let's put that on hold. I think I commend them for being patient here and going with this approach, even if it is riskier, because you got to see it through.
Yeah, that's what you have to do if you make the investment. The team that showed us how not to do it is the Indianapolis Colts. What they've done with Anthony Richardson, knowing that he's going to be a development guy. And I think J.J. McCarthy, coming from Michigan, people thought that he was like a pro-ready guy. He's a guy who needed a lot of development. He was really young when he got drafted, man, like really young. And again, being minimized in the offense. with great coaches who want control of the game. Makes sense. Like, he just needed a lot of development. So they do need to see it through better or worse. But for all intents and purposes, he is a rookie. And I think the half a season that Michael Penix got is really going to give him an advantage here. Look, we've all had new jobs. It's just a human thing. If you go to a new school, you start in a new group, a new sports team, whatever stage of life you're in, you go to a new daycare. It might be a little, babies cry a little extra more. You're a little uncomfortable. Yeah. It takes a little bit of time, no matter what age you are, to feel super comfortable. And I think J.J. McCarthy's been around, but not being out on the field. That's where you earn the respect of your teammates. So for me, for all intents and purposes, J.J. McCarthy is a rookie right now, especially with his age and his youth and his inexperience. So that gives me a lean towards Michael Penix even more for 2025. But let's end here. We talked about all 6 of these first-round rookie quarterbacks from last year's draft. A great draft class for sure. But as we said before we started, the odds are that maybe only 3 of these guys are legitimately going to be starting quarterbacks going forward. Louie, if you had to pick 3 guys who you think 5 years from now are still starting in the NFL, who would you pick? And who do you think ultimately 5 years from now is the best quarterback?
I think it's Jayden Daniels, Drake Maye, and Bo Nix.
Okay.
I think those are the 3. If I had to say, I picked McCarthy over Penix, but I think McCarthy has the highest bust potential. I think Caleb Williams does a little bit more than Drake Maye for me personally, and then Michael Penix. I just think people might just say he's a bridge quarterback, and he's not a franchise quarterback in 5 years. Who's the best one of anyone down the road? I'm a big fan of Drake Maye. I'm going to end up going with Maye.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Drake Maye too.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. Sucks though. Mike Vrabel, God, he was right.
Yeah.
Titans wrong. I got to deal
Who
with
knows?
that.
They're not saying Vrabel's going to be his coach though.
Yeah.
Years,
right?
I
guess I can hope that.
They might want to upgrade and get him a nice shiny new play caller.
Well, hey, that is the life cycle of young quarterbacks. It seems defensive head coach gets run out. They bring in the new play caller, and that's what's happening. For me, for my 3, I am going to go with Jayden Daniels. That's a lock for me. He's just a good, solid player. I am going to go with Drake Maye, of course. And I'm going to go with Caleb Williams.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams bounces back. I think Drake Maye or Bo Nix is a good quarterback. I think Sean Payton, it's kind of like a Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan situation. If you put Brock Purdy on anybody else's team, I don't think he's what he is. And same thing with Bo Nix. I'm going to trust in the talent of Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson and go that route. Probably going to look foolish, but I didn't like Bo Nix that much coming out of college. I liked him better than McCarthy, but I'm just going to go down on the ship.
Yeah, I like Bo Nix. Looking back after seeing the rookie year he had, I'm like,
you're an Oregon guy.
Yeah, I am. But I don't get what he didn't have that people thought he did. What he didn't have. He's mobile. He has a good arm. He's accurate. I don't know. I feel like people were shocked when he was a first rounder, but I wasn't super surprised at what he did year 1.
I think when the bullets get flying, he makes bad decisions.
That's fair.
So, yeah, and I don't know if, his arm is
good,
but, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Sean Payton's a really good coach. I was wrong about that no matter what happened. So he continues to cook, and the Broncos are going to be fun to watch. But a great quarterback class, man. We really got blessed with that one. That was a really good group. So had a lot of fun talking about them. Let us know your thoughts about these quarterbacks down below. But that's going to do it for the Locked On NFL podcast. I am your host, the Madman, Tyler Rowland. My co-host, the Legacy, Louie DiBiase. As I tell you every episode, thanks for tuning in, and stay safe out there.